Hello there, everyone. How are you? And I am so excited to be here because this is the first time I'm ever introducing my swatch books. Now, I have used these myself way back from when I was first in art school, and I don't know why I never thought to introduce them to you, but I've been asked lately a lot about these little books, and I thought this was a great opportunity for me to allow you to pick some up and hopefully explain to you how I use them and all the different ways that I use them, because I have multiple ones and I love to keep them even on hand as the years go by so that I can revisit these little swatch books. They are like pocket-sized books, and as you can see, I'm starting to fill in this next one, which I'm going to show you how to use this. But they're made with the most beautiful 100% cotton 300 GSM paper, my very favorite paper, actually, so that I get a true representation of what the colors actually look like on paper when I'm painting. And, if I want to put brush techniques or things like that in them, then that also, I get a better representation of it. And the reason why is because depending on the paper, that's how good the paint is going to perform. So you always want to use the very best paper you can, even for your swatches. Otherwise, you'll get all kinds of different little problems that you probably won't get when you are actually painting on a nice sheet of paper. So it's fine to do a lot of testing and things like that, and maybe just like cards or something that you don't care about if you just want to try things out on swatch sheets of really cheap paper. But to be honest with you, you're never going to get as great a result as you will with watercolor on 100% cotton paper. I do make as many different papers available on my website, jackswatercolor.com, from month to month, all different ones, so that you can try them out and just so that you have access to them. Also available are these great synthetic brushes, which I just adore. They are just my favorite brushes these days. I really love using them, especially when I beat up my brushes like crazy. So sometimes these cheaper brushes are fun to be able to use. And I can tell you, I have been using this just for my mixing and swatching, and it never loses its point. So I have really beaten them. I think you'll really love the performance of these brushes. Available on my site. So I'm working around one of um, the subscriptions that is for November right now, and this is M Gram by the Sea. It's a nice little sample of M Gram paints in some really beautiful colors that remind me of the ocean, and so I'm going to be using those as the base for some of these swatching exercises as you get to know your new swatch book. Okay, so just so you know what those are. So every month I plan on making these beautiful little books. Let's get the size of them. They're the perfect size for me for this, because if it's too large and you don't have a lot of space, sometimes the bigger books that I've made, like these, they really can get in your way a bit. So um, these are, let's see, I have one here, but I've got it all tangled. I don't know why it's all tangled. Well, I guess it is. Anyway, see how much bigger the regular ones are? They're really, really large. And so if you don't have a lot of space, you tend to put this away and not get it back out. I actually like these pocket size ones for that reason, because they are 6 inches by 4.5 inches. And I find that with the accordion style design, they are perfect to be able to just peel them in and out. You can take these books out of the covers and switch them out if you like, but mainly so that you could open the entire thing and be able to just stand it right in front of you on your desk. So, and then when you're ready to protect the pages, the swatches just go right back in, just that simply. This is also good for turning, because this kind of paper, this is made in Italy, and you can paint on both sides of it. So when you're done filling in this side, you can switch, flip it over, and fill in an entire other side. And so you have the use of all of those pages. So how many pages does it end up being? It ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. and then that would be 16. So that is a lot of pages for you to mark down your notes and your swatches for the season, or for even, you know, your current palettes. Let's go through the different things. So there will be at least 4 or 5 covers available if you do want to use them for different things. And once you get the initial kit, you can reach out to me and get the swatch books or the interior books without the covers at a different price. You just have to email me for that if you do want something without the full kit and you just want to get extra books. So that will give you a little bit of a discount, and you'll save some money on it. I did the 4 or 5 different covers because I like to, like, there's a stripe one too. I actually like to have at least 4 of these. And so thus I made 4 covers at least. There's a stripe one as well for this month. But again, every season I'll be doing different papers that you can do. And these are waterproof and they're really, really beautiful, good quality. All right, let's open this and then we'll get to some of these instructions. So in your kit, when you initially get your kit, you'll get a swatch book and you'll get a sheet that explains the different ways to fill in your swatch book and the different layouts and things that you can do with them and how I use them. Is really, really handy. And this is the instructional video that you were able to get to through a scan tag that was included with your swatch book. So when you're talking about watercolor swatches, I find one of the easiest ones to do is just a circle, which I do with either a round brush or a flat brush, maybe about like a 1/2 inch flat brush or a nice juicy round brush. And I just kind of with a point will go this way and turn. So that is one of the best ways to swatch out just basically if you just want to get your inventory down. What I recommend though is that you turn. I get my better circles by turning. So I'll do like half of it and then I'll turn and I'll do the other half. This size actually carries 3 really, really big, nice size swatches across and 4 down. So that is, I think, a terrific arrangement for the amount that you would put in this book. And then on top of it, you can stretch it entirely out and have it go that way, which I think is lovely, you know, to be able to open it and just set it outside on your art table as you're painting. Now there's several ways to lay out your swatch book. One, you can do the circles and just basically 1 circle for every color. You could do it by brand or do it by colors. So maybe 1 page would be all of your yellows, the next would be all of your blues. This one is just kind of going through colors I like right now. This one has a bunch of ones from M-Gram. So this is just this whole M-Gram set that I'm swatching over here, and that was part of the M-Gram by the Sea. You can also arrange your swatch book in palettes. So this would be like a palette, and then maybe the ones directly after it would talk about and show me different ways that my palette mixes together, and I'll be doing that for you today. So let's go ahead and just pick a direction. So since I started with the circles, let's go over here and I'll show you a layout of mixing colors together that works out really well. This one I'm just going to do with my flat brush. So let's just take a little bit of the Queen Gold, and this is a palette that I do carry on my website. It is through the vendor that sells them and makes them for us. Typically we have to order a lot of them in order to get them. They are absolutely wonderful and they're made of plexiglass. I love them because I can use them for mixing. So typically I will build up some color on my mixing palette here. And I prefer to use either this plexiglass, which is great for mixing, or glass or ceramic. So once I have a nice amount of the full shade of the color mixed with some water and I get that on my brush, then I just go and I start with one of the shapes. So this first mixing area is just going to be done with the solid here in just a nice block. And maybe we'll make it just a bit larger in this area. Good. Let's wipe off the brush on my sponge over here, rinse it off in the water. And we're going to choose the other color that I really want to represent here that mixes so well with this, and that would be the ultramarine. So let's grab the ultra, and I'm going to put that and start building this up on my palette mixed with a little bit of water. Now I find that when I do this, it is better to have a very concentrated consistency of the color to start with, because we can always do lighter shades later, but I like to have a built-in, very consistent dark representation of the shade. And again, that could be over here if we wanted to. So this is just a simple way to show mixes, and I find that this, for me, is a lot less confusing than those traditional mixing charts. I like doing them this way. And if you wanted to do more, you could actually turn it this way as well. You don't have to have it, you know, going straight across. Swipe off my brush again and then rinse it off. Now I'll show you how I start mixing. So basically, I'm just going to start bringing these two together in the center. So that's going to be like a 50-50 mix for me. And that will go right in the center. And I do it that way because I find that it's just really easy and kind of fun to do it. And it kind of makes me have a start, right? Another great thing to have on hand is some kind of waterproof ink pen. You can use Sharpies, you can use whatever you like, but this is going to be a 50-50 mix. So that's my 50% right there. Here's my ultramarine. And here's my Quin Gold. Lovely so far, right? So now what's left on our palette here, I'm just going to bring a little bit more of this in. I'm going to start mixing with this mix because I want to get something that is in between the 50 and the gold. So this is going to be up to you as to what you like. Now I suggest, if you want to not drive yourself crazy, you don't have to do a perfectly 25%. I would look for a color that appeals to you. I wouldn't go with every single color in between these two. I would look for one that really appeals to you, and I would mix that. Now I happen to love this green, but I would like to find one that's just a little bit more golden, so almost like a green gold. And when I get to that area, and you can even have a separate piece of paper just to blot these on if you'd like. When I get to that area, I am then going to give it a spot, sorry. And so you can see this is more of a goldy green, which I really, really love. That's really pretty, you know, and this is more of a heavier green. So as I mix more of the blue into it, and this is going to teach you about mixing, maybe we're going to end up with something somewhere in between. And if you see that it's really just not right, then that's okay. It's watercolor. You can add a little bit more until you get to the shade that you're looking for. Now I feel that these two look so much alike, so I'm just going to go ahead and add more blue and give it a little more of that depth, and then I'm going to make this one, this 50-50, a little bit more blue. Now this is a judgment call. This is what you do as an artist. You don't have to do it the same way I do it, however you get to these mixes. And this is, I think, where people start driving themselves crazy. I think a lot of times you'll sit here and try really, really hard to be perfect with your mixes, but you're never going to be perfect with your mixes. There is always going to be something just a little bit off, or a little bit, you know, like more than it should be, more green, more blue, more yellow. And I find that going by eye is a way better way to go, because if you go by eye, you literally can't steer yourself wrong. And on a piece of paper, you're going to be going by eye. You're not going to be like, oh, did I mix 50% of that color with that color? Now see what a beautiful blue that is? And I want this to be a little more bluey green. So we're just gonna like kind of mix this together. And maybe I'll remove some of the color just so I can see it better, just by lifting this back out and just playing with it. That's pretty. Okay, so those are the colors I like in that mix. Now, you see what I did is I didn't go with a perfect mix of anything. I went with what I really wanted to see in this mix. I went with what I was really excited about, and what I really wanted. There it is, and what I really wanted to represent in my swatch book as the colors that mix together to get this beautiful, beautiful, like deep green. It might not be a perfect 50-50 mix, but it's the shade that I'm looking for. So you can put 50-50 there if you want to, just as a way of saying, okay, it's somewhere halfway distance between the two, or you can just leave it off. You can also, if you want to mark transparency, draw a line through this and then paint over it so you can see the line and how transparent it is. So that's one of the ways in laying out to do it. Another great way is this way. So let's go ahead and let's clean this off. Just take my sponge that I keep on hand and just wipe that right off. Okay, so next I'm going to take my permanent or my alizarin crimson, because that's a little bit more fun. I don't know, it's really fun to play with this color. I'm going to put a lot of really nice color there, and we're going to paint the first square as that color. You can do circles on these mixes. This is a 2-color mix. So I've got my alizarin crimson there. I'm going to rinse my brush off. So first wipe it off on my sponge so that I'm not making my water too crazy. And I'm going to go ahead and write down here alizarin crimson. And then my second color that is going to mix with my alizarin crimson is going to be, I really want to mix the ultramarine with it because it makes such really, really pretty purples. And since that is like the only blue that's right there, I think I'll just go ahead and use the ultra. So plus ultramarine. So in a way, this page is becoming a feature for ultramarine. And I mentioned that in the instructional page that sometimes you might even want to create a feature page around one color. That's my husky. She wants some playtime. So she's doing her little zoomies over here next to me, trying to get my attention. All right, and so the next square is going to be here, which is of the full strength of the second color. You're like, what? What's going on here? All right, so guess what's going to be in the center? It's going to be a mix of the two, right? So if we mix the two together and figure out, oh, that's the purple. Yeah, I really like that. So I'm going to go with that mid kind of like dioxine purple, and I'm going to go right in the center here. And now that I have a feel for the layout of what I like here and where I'm going, let's wipe my brush off and make these other squares just a little bigger. So you see how this is kind of, to me, this is more relaxing than mapping out a great big chart of squares and trying to get all the boxes right. I find it can be really overwhelming and not really that relaxing. Tackling it in the smaller areas tells you more about each color, and it doesn't tempt you to want to speed through things, you know? Okay, so now let's start mixing a little more of our red with the mix of the center, because I want to just kind of get another color range here that I like. Now that's a really beautiful wine color. So let's go ahead and put that wine color here. And the reason why I'm putting it here is because this would be midway in between those two colors for me. If I add a little more blue to this mix, it's going to lean a little more purple, but not so much as here. So that would be here. right? And if I add a little more red to the mix, then that would be this square. I think even we can go a little bit more just to bring out that pink, but also make it a little more berry color. Cool, right? So let's rinse off our brush a little bit just to kind of get a starting point with the blue. Now I want to like come here and work with the blue a little bit. So I'm going to take some of my red and I'm going to mix it into my blue to get a really, really deep version of the color. And that's going to go here. Oh, that's really pretty. And again, you see my boxes, they don't have to be perfect. They just have to be aligned, and you can scoot them together. You can make them longer. Don't be hung up on this. Just fill it in and have a good time. Now let's add a little bit more to my mix. It's still kind of similar. So what I'm trying to do is find colors I like here, but make them different than each one. Lovely. And don't even worry. You see how this one touches? That's fine too. That's fine too. So now as we're heading more towards the red, I'm going to keep pulling some of these mixes in here and look for colors that are in between the two that I might like. Now this one was pretty dark, right? It's almost like that, but I don't know. I kind of like them to lean a little bit more to the red. So I'm going to shake it up here. I'm actually going to just go ahead and add this wine color that is like a purpley wine because I want to remember it. Now, is this darker than this? Nope, it's not. Does it have to be? Nope, it doesn't have to be. You could go back and lift some of that if you wanted it to be lighter. If you just don't like that color and you don't think you would use it, then maybe just lift this color a little bit. I personally thought that it was a bit dark for me, and I thought it would be kind of fun to see a lift version. And then there you go. So now I'm looking at colors that I actually might use. And I find that this is a better way to go with these mixing charts. And even I don't mind them touching. I kind of want to encourage them to have that look where they touch, because I think that that looks like really interesting and a lot more fun, you know? So that's another layout for mixes that you might like to do. Let's do another one because these are so much fun, right? So we did one that goes straight across. We did one that goes like this. What about if we do one that literally takes a red or any color, and let me see if I can make a circle. I'm not great at making circles with flat brushes, but so we're going to put the red there. Cool. And then we'll take the green and probably do this here. So now I have my phthalo green and my red. So Christmas colors, right? Let's go ahead and add those to my palette. Now I'll show you, I'm just going to do a really, really easy, quick mix here. I've got my green. I'm going to dip this into my color, so I have to rinse it off and grab my red again. So I don't want to like dirty my palette. It's so nice and fresh. Ooh, that red's really strong. So let's just go ahead and mix them together. Perfect. I got a beautiful wine color there. Where am I going to put it? Well, I can put it anywhere I want to. I just want to get the color down. So I probably will put it somewhere in between, but not too much to the green because I know I've got more, right, to come. So maybe we'll just put it there. And this is just another layout option for you. So I've got that. It's almost like kaput mortem, isn't it? And if I mix a little water in with this and go more towards the red, then I can put this one next to it. Yeah, that's another color I like. Let's add some, let's clean my brush off here. My water gets so dirty when I don't wipe my brush first. So I usually try to wipe them. Let's grab a bunch of it. So this makes a really, really kind of deep neutral tone that I just love. And I'm going to put that here because I love this color. Nice big swatch of it. Isn't that beautiful? So pretty, right? Let me get you a little bit closer. Oops. There we go. And then I can move this into here and I can get another gorgeous tone that I like. Just kind of looking a little bit like the other one, but not really. Let me see. Yeah, a little more gray. Isn't that beautiful? Let's mix a little more of this green here. And paint down here. So you can see I'm using just some basic shapes to fill in these pretty, pretty mixes. And again, I'm working with the colors on my palette to find a color that I like. I'm not trying to, this is the way I do it. I don't need a representation of every color. Now, if you're curious and you don't know colors well, then you can always paint every single color on your sketchbook and then you can circle the ones that you like. That's another way to do it. This is just how I do it, is I look on my palette for colors that I might use, and that's where I draw the line. Those are the ones I paint down. Now, in the beginning, did I paint every single color? Absolutely. I have some books that you guys have seen that literally I have done every color I could possibly come out with, and they're so much fun, and I love doing those. But sometimes it's good just to have, you know, the ones that you like the best. So isn't that interesting? Now let's always never forget to write the colors. So this is the phthalo green. Now remember, across here we have the basic shades from light to dark within the circles. So I already have a really good representation of the color larger, right, in a larger way. And then this is the pyrrole red. I love it. It's so, so pretty. So now if I want to, well, to me, because I put this here, this means that I mixed more green in the bottom ones. And this was like midway in between, and this was more red. So because of the placement, I don't really need to make notes, but there's plenty of room on here for you to add notes if you want to. Very, very easily. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to let that dry. Let's clean this off again. Just gonna wipe it down with my sponge here. There we go. Easy peasy. That's why I like these palettes so much. And they're magnetic too. It's so cool. I just love it. It doesn't take up a lot of room, right? Again, these are colors from this card, which is the subscription. And if you're not subscribed, I really recommend that you do the subscription. The monthly watercolor subscription sends you a monthly watercolor tins and paper. So you get a really, really nice pack from me every single month of all kinds of goodies to try out. And it is really fun to do. There's challenges in there and all kinds of interesting things to keep up with. And then we all share it in the group and talk about it. It's pretty neat. I smudged, didn't I? But that's okay. That's okay. Let's just dry it. I'm moving kind of quickly. So one of the things I love about the accordion sketchbook is I can, if it's not dry, it's no big deal. I can just open it. That's very convenient for me. And also you can see now that as I lay out pages, if I want to, I can literally see a bigger view, and I can stand it in front of me if I want to as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about transparency, because I think transparency is something that is really important to know about, but maybe not in everybody's mind so much. One of the ways that I map out transparency on these things is with a simple square or simple like flower circles, things like that. So let's grab a ink pen. So this is permanent ink. And we're going to do a transparency on the Azo Yellow. And I'm wondering if I should do it on, yeah, let's do the Azo Yellow. So I'm going to write the name of my color. And I'm actually going to do some kind of shape. So this one, I'm just going to do an inked square. And then if we're going to do more, we can do more. But I just want to do one so that you can see it. And this would be like maybe do 3 rows, right? So 2, 4, 6 of this shape going down your page. So let's go ahead and get some of this yellow. Hopefully there's no more green left. There's a little bit of green left on my brush, but that's okay. It's kind of pretty. So in the center is going to be the deepest point of this color. So let's add some water to it and wash it out so that we get a really, really nice wash. And what we're going to do is we're just going to create a box just like that with the lightest version of this color. And let my ink dry very well. Okay, we're going to leave that for a second. And we're going to start another one because they're going to have to dry. So I hope I'm using the right one. Oh, this is the Faber-Castell one. Now this one bleeds. Yeah, it just goes to show you, right? I have to pay attention to the ones I'm using because, oh my gosh, I have all these Faber-Castell ones out. Crazy. Here. This one, this is Molotow. This does not bleed. It is so much better than Faber-Castell. Okay, so we're just going to do a 6 layout. Again, don't get overly obsessed with how you do your shapes. You don't have to be crazy perfect. I actually like them to be a little wonky. I don't know, that's just me. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do is the Diox Purple because I really, really love this purple. So I'm going to get a nice amount of it here and we're going to wash it down. I'm putting a lot of water in my brush. And just going to paint right over, just like that. So this is another really nice shape. Now you could do circles. There are some really fun circles. Like, let's do another one in another shape so that I'm showing you more than one shape right now. So while that dries, I'm going to get another color, and let's do the alizarin crimson one. Okay, so I need a nice amount of water here to liquefy it, and the larger shape first. So just a nice loose, scribbly kind of wonky circle shape. Another one we can do is this one. So get some sap green, like out of spots, but that's okay. Just want to mix a lot of water with it. So again, the lightest representation of the color first. That yellow looks kind of dry, so let's go back to that one and see if I can mess with it a bit. Drying my brush off, grabbing another bunch of the color, and I'm going to go like this. So you're going to leave some of this square alone, and as you get darker, you're going to paint in towards the center of where the shape is. Okay, so like on this one we could have done in the center, but I just didn't think far enough ahead, but you could. The purple, let me grab some more of this purple. And again, be careful with how much water. This is a great way for you to practice how much water you're using on these mixes. So here, this is why I think in some cases a flat brush is really handy. This brush is just fabulous. I only have it in two sizes right now. I have it in 1 inch and a 1/2 inch, but that's all I really use. You know, I don't use a lot of the different sizes. This is just a perfect brush for that. My blues and crimson is still not dry, so, but my green looks a little more dry, so let's go ahead and add a little bit of color to this mix. And again, I'm not going perfect. I find that we don't want perfection in these shapes. They look so much cuter and just nicer when they're not perfect. So now these have to dry and you just keep adding. So let's just come back in 1 second. Okay, we're back. The magic powers of video. I was thinking in the break that this would be a good time also to show you a mixed one. So this one I'm going to do with a light wash of yellow with my round brush here. Okay, let's add another layer to this yellow one here. So we're just going to grab more concentrated yellow. And you know, different yellows are going to read differently, right? Like this one, obviously, it doesn't have a really, really high, thick tinting strength, but you can see how nicely transparent they are, and the layers will build up, you know? See how the different shades are? And then you get to a point where you have so much you built up that it just doesn't build anymore. It just, that's it. That's it as far as the color goes. That's way too thick. There we go. So you see on different ones, this is actually a little thick, so I'm going to just wipe a little bit of it off my brush with some water and my sponge. And this is, you know, by eye and just by intuition. I'm looking at it and I'm like, nope, that's just a little too dark, right? So I made that adjustment as I added the color. And that's going to be up to you. This is your swatch book. There is no right or wrong. There's only your swatches and the way you want to see them. Let's go and do our red. So as I add the color, remember it's going to get darker in those layers. You don't have to add a really, really deep amount of this color. Go outside this layer a little bit. And I'm going to actually put some of the alizarin crimson over this yellow, because this is how we kind of see what a mix would do, a transparent layer mix. See how it makes that like kind of orangey color? Well, you would never find that out if you didn't do transparent mixes. Let's go and mess with our sap green one. So, and you would just kind of go a little thicker each time. And again, I'm showing you that if you should lay it on too thick, that's okay. Just wipe it off your brush, use a little water, and get it to where you want it to be. So this is a transparency exercise, and just one of the many. There are lots of shapes that you can do. I want to do another exercise with you guys, so let's mark this one as transparency. And remember, buy the colors on the pigment information. So like if you look it up online, depending on what your colors are, if you're getting them from my website at jackswatercolor.com, I can tell you what they are. It's usually listed there. So the yellow is PY 151. So what a good thing to do also is include some of this information in your swatches, because if you ever want to compare PY 151 yellow, you would know, oh, I know that Azul yellow is PY 151, you know? And it's also a good thing to put on the circle swatches as well. And then as far as the transparency information, light fast, you know, those kind of things are things that might be helpful. Staining, non-staining. Now you can get all this information also through Jackson's. They do a lot of listings like that. And just general Google on the internet will come up with the brand, the color, and it will tell you all of the pigment details. So again, as you're moving through these, just keep letting them dry and then going a little darker each time until you get to what you wanted. Now that one wasn't dry enough, so if you should do that, just remove the color just by wiping your brush off. And again, what's mostly going to happen is if it's not dry, you have to go into that entire shape again, otherwise you'll get a bloom in the center. Okay, so let's move on to another mixing shape that I really love to do and is really, really fun is, let's take some red here, is just shapes. So I'm just going to put a neat solid color here and probably one here. So we have a couple of different versions of this. So I was saying about my circles are always so wonky unless I kind of shift this around. I do love the points on these brushes though, and I can't seem to kill them, which is great because I love Escoda brushes. I buy a ton of them, but I do lose my points really quickly on the Perlas, and I'm not able to really chase this point away, which I'm pretty excited about. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so to bring this into a mix, what I'm going to do is the first one, I'm going to play with that green again. And in the bottom is going to be my phthalo green. And this would make really nice art as well. I think this exercise here. Then we're going to grab another color we'd like to see mixed with this, which would be the blue. So I'm actually going here from the red to the blue to the green, and we're going to connect them right now. And this is going to show me what these colors look like when they're mixed together. So I'm going to let that bleed into there, and I'm going to let this bleed into here. Look at that. And you can do all kinds of things with it. You can make it whiter. You can put more color on one side, less color on another side. You can even, like, if you really, really like the way this looks and you want to go ahead and expand it out and make this larger so it's more dramatic, you can do that too. But try not to mess with the mix. Let it just mix into itself, because I find that that actually looks really, really pretty. And then remember over here when we did this mix here, and I'm kind of like referencing because they're all out, because I can see them because it's an accordion sketchbook, and I had some of those grays. Now's a good time to combine the colors. Get one of those beautiful grays or wines and add a shape down here of both of them together and just let this mix. And it really is beautiful, isn't it? It just becomes like art. Now, I got another thing to do for you. Take your brush, like your dirty brush, and mix it into one of these colors. And then just come around and add to the shape. So now this is the Prussian color. Isn't that great? And then take my brush again and just kind of come out of the green so that it can additionally mix with the Prussian. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of exercising a palette of colors. So this one was, we're going to mark it, right? So this is phthalo green. Right? And then we have ultra blue. And we have pyro red, which I don't know if I can get in there because it's still drying, but I'll go up top. Isn't that beautiful? I really like those shapes. I think it's really fun to do those. Let's go ahead and do one with this red. So I'm going to make a yellow circle right here. And I'm going to let them touch. I did leave this to dry a bit, so I can reactivate it. I've got 2 circles. And because I let that dry, it is starting to bleed in, but I probably will need to reactivate it with just a little color and a little water. Just so it can bleed a little bit better. And we just kind of be patient with it and wait. You can see it going. Now, you could also add just a bit of water to get it going and mess with it a tad if you do want it to kind of move a little bit more. But it will, and depending on the watercolor, this is a great way to see how much travel the watercolor has. Different ones, you know, will travel a lot more than others depending on the mix that's in them. But can you imagine like a page of these, right, done? Would be so cool and so much fun to look at. Like, let's go ahead and take our blue, and we'll do one of the blue and yellow. A little heavier amount of the blue on the bottom, maybe. And again, this to me is so creative and so much fun. You could make art out of doing mixing shapes. So now I'm going to go through it and just kind of carry the color through. As just a funny little shape. Yeah, it just makes like kind of just a little bit of a cobalt green almost, right? Like a tealy green. And I'm feeding it in to the center and letting this feed in a little bit, just because it's my party, right? So if this is my party, then I kind of want it to look a certain way, and I can make it look a certain way. And I can make this look, you know, I can go ahead and add water to these if I want to and let them wash a little bit more. And I can even remove some color if I want to and make it even look more interesting. Because this is your swatch book. This is something you're going to look back at later, and the purpose of it is going to be so that you can say, oh, I love that combination. I was really able to achieve something really nice here, and I love it. I love what happened, you know? So I think that's really important when it comes to creating pages with colors that you love. You want to come out with stuff that you'd be like, oh yes, I want to go back and I want to do that. So let's go here on our purple now that this is dry, and I'm just going to keep showing you a little bit more on how you can do it. Now, I went dramatically darker in that center. You do or do not have to do that. You can do it any way you want to. So don't even just go by me. Do it exactly like you love it. You can add colors to these, like we did 2 tones here. We can add an additional color just to see what happens until you get to a mix where you're like, oh, I love this, right? So the reason why we do this, remember, is so that when you go and you do a floral arrangement, or you do a landscape, or you take one of my classes and you're like, oh my God, my mix got so muddy, I don't love it. Well, if you're not following an instructor perfectly, right, you can end up with some pretty crazy, horrifying mixes of your colors if you don't know or have some kind of a map or a reference guide. That's what this swatch book is for. It's a beautiful, big reference guide that is pocket size. So like, look how much room we have, and we have front and back to do so much with it. But then when it dries, you can just fold it all up, and put it in your pocket. It's not that big. So those are some really, really neat ways that I like to swatch. Always remember featured colors too, like if you want to do multiple ones here, just get creative and have fun. Don't be afraid of the colors. Don't be afraid to mess up, because as you can tell, you really can't mess up because it's all up to you. And I find that the best mixes come from your imagination, and they're going to be based on things that you like to look at, not what the color wants to do, but somewhere in between. So if you find that you're mixing a color here that you don't love, fix it and then paint it. You don't have to represent the ones you don't like if you don't want to. Or you can, and then just circle the ones that you do love. So there is many, many ways of doing it, but those are some of my favorite ways. If you guys want more ideas and you want to do more of these swatches and you just want more shapes and stuff, please let me know, and I'd be happy to jump on and make even more fun videos. And remember, these are art. You could totally frame these. You could cut these out and put them in little frames, or just keep them so that you can go back and look at all your favorite colors and a date of when you used to use them. This is Jacqueline Jax from Jax Watercolor. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you will share yours, because I would love to see what you came up with the group page over on Facebook. And happy painting, you guys. I'll see you again soon.